this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's June 27th, 2019, and we're underway at 7 p.m. Starting off our agenda tonight, we have our invocation, and tonight Council Member Fredericks will handle that task, and then we will have the pledges to the American and Texas flag. So if you'll please stand for the invocation and pledges.
As we approach this Independence Day, let us be reminded of all who have sacrificed for our freedom. Let us not take that freedom for granted. May we remember the high price that was paid for our freedom and liberty. Lord, bless those that served and continue to serve and give their lives so that we may continue to enjoy our freedom. With favor and bounty, meet their needs and watch over their families. Eternal God, stir in our minds and stimulate our hearts with a high sense of patriotism as we approach this July 4th. May all that this day symbolizes renew our faith in freedom, our devotion to democracy, and redouble our efforts to keep a government of the people, by the people, and for the people truly alive in our world. Grant that we and all the people of this land may have the grace to maintain our liberties and righteousness and peace through our Son, Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up we have citizens to be heard. I'm assuming no one signed up, right, Selena?
That is correct.
Okie dokie. And next then is our consent agenda. And tonight our consent agenda includes items 3 through 7. So I'd ask if there are any questions on any of these items or a request to pull one or more.
I have a question.
You have a question?
Yes, on 5 and 7.
5 and 7. Okay.
They're quick questions.
Okay.
Selena had sent us out a deal to find out if we could find any alternates for the Board of Adjustments.
Yeah.
Are those open? Are they still open?
Yes.
All 5 of them?
All 4 of them.
There's 4?
4.
Okay. So we still need to find people to fill those?
Correct.
Okay, and I probably should ask Rick this before, but on number 7, I was looking through the, it has nothing to do with the actual agenda item, but what again is potholing there? Do you know what that is? Because that's part, they're asking for more money.
Yeah, that was that exploration we did for utilities before we drilled the piers. And it's just a common term for using compressed air or other means to dig holes looking for underground utilities and other things that might
So that was
be
part
in
of the
way.
process of trying to find other utilities?
Correct.
Okay.
We felt we needed to do that, and we were glad we did because there was an AT&T line that would have been hit had we not done that.
Okay, that's all I had, Mayor.
Okay. Okay, anybody else? Any request to pull anything? Then I would look for a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3 through 7.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept consent agenda items 3 through 7 as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Frederick. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. So again, we have a motion from Fredericks, a second from Massey to approve consent agenda items 3 through 7 as written. No further discussion being required. We'll call the question. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries unanimously to approve consent agenda items 3 through 7 as written. That takes us to item number 8, which is a presentation by our infamous Public Works Supervisor, Josh Mayer, and a discussion and action following for the renewal of the Municipal Separate Stormwater System, AKA MS4, general permit. Josh, it's all yours.
All right.
Keep it simple and hopefully short.
Simple, short, and sweet. Got it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This is simply to kind of give a quick overview and inform councils what we're doing in regards to stormwater within the city. Every 5 years, we're required by TCEQ to file a notice of intent to discharge stormwaters into the state waterways of Texas. And then we're supposed to, as part of that notice of intent, develop a stormwater management plan. Like I said, this is a 5-year plan, and it's supposed to set and meet measurable goals and provides a schedule for implementation of best management practices. You're going to hear best management practices and minimum control measures as two of the key words that we'll go over. Basically, we have 5 minimum control measures we have to meet. One of them is public education, outreach, and involvement. The other is illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management and new development and redevelopment, and then pollution, good housekeeping for municipal operations. So the purpose of this is to look at those 5 minimum control measures and come up with best management practices that the city is going to implement over a 5-year period to prevent pollution, utilizing those. On pages 41 through 53 on the stormwater management plan portion of your packet, that's the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Each one of those is an identified best management practice. It'll let you know which minimum control measure it satisfies, and then it lists what we plan on doing for each of the 5 years. Most of the stuff inside this document here, I would say probably about 80% of it is exactly what we were doing in our last 5-year permit, but then they did have some new adjustments and updates on requirements. So there's a few more best management practices in here that were not in here before. And I do, if you would like to go over all of them, that's fine, but if you had a chance to read them or had any questions on specific practices in here, I'm open to that. However
I
y'all want
want
to
him
go for
to
it.
cover more detail, or you can look at it online?
Yes, that'd be
Okay.
fine, look at it
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
So this is going to be sent to TCEQ. Our due date is July 23rd. And once they get that, if they approve the plan that I've put together, will basically be sent a document that we have to issue a public notification for the general public and give them a period to comment. If we don't get any comments, it'll be an approved, established plan. If we do get comments, we'll have to address those and move forward. Hopefully, we'll get approved, but did meet with TCQ before putting this plan together and told them, basically, you're just looking for us to continue what we've been doing, and they said, yes, you're doing great. So that's kind of what we did. We didn't really change nothing up too much.
Okay, and just as a reminder, Rick put in here on the agenda request form, if you may recall, those of you that were on council, we had our first submittal back in 2008, and we did that in-house and saved quite a bit of money. And then we had our first renewal in 2014, and you were involved in that one. And now this will be our second one, so we've been pretty clean so far.
Yeah, we've been audited one time, and we received 0 demerits, and we've submitted our annual report every year and have gotten 0 demerits from TCEQ, so we've been doing what they've asked us to do.
Cool, okay, thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
And so, is there any discussion? Y'all want to talk about anything? If not, there is an action item here where we need to approve the renewal and the application for the renewal permit. So if I can get a motion in a second, we can take action on approving this item.
Mayor, make a motion, we discuss and take action on number 8.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. He beat me.
You want him to get it? Okay, we have a second from Blue. So with a motion from Byes, a second from Blue, discussion evidently not necessary. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving the MS4 general permit renewal, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have an item for discussion and action on a request by Mr. He for approval of a variance for vehicular access gates encroaching into the required 20-foot setback from the front property line located at 9355 Circle S Drive over in Evans Valley. And evidently, as you all saw from the material, the permit pointed out that the gate should be set back. They didn't, and he doesn't want to now, so he put in this variance request for you guys to deliberate on and decide yea or nay. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on number 9 as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Byes. So with a motion from Massey, a second from Byes. Cynthia, it's your motion. You're up.
I need to ask a couple of questions. Is the fence in compliance with our rules and regulations?
Yes.
But the fence is not set back by 20?
The gate.
I know, I'm talking about the fence. It's connected, the gate is connected to the fence.
Correct.
But how far from the property line is the actual fence?
The fence is on the property line.
And that's in compliance?
Yes.
Okay, so can someone explain to me why that would be in compliance, but the gate would not be?
Rick?
Council amended those rules several years ago due to backup of vehicles stopped at a gate and going their hind end essentially sticking into the right-of-way, into the street.
The code requires the gate to be set back 20 feet, like Rick says, so that a car can pull completely off the street and sit there at the gate while it's being opened.
And that's what, I logically thought that myself. I don't even remember when this was changed. I don't know
Yeah.
if I was on council or not, but
Yeah, you were.
that's what I was thinking.
It was-
This is a residential street.
Yes, and the reason that change came about was the building inspector brought it to us and recommended having that setback. And most gates in the city are set back to allow, because so many people pull in with trailers, and rather than keep them on the street, is to allow them to hopefully pull off the street.
Okay.
But that, it is code to set the gate back 20 feet.
Okay.
And again, that was stipulated on the permit.
And again, this is a residential street. I could see this on a major street, a major thoroughfare, a business street, but on a residential street, when cars are really not, going through that quickly, I'm not sure that it's necessary, but that's just, I'd like to hear what my other council people say.
Okay. Bert?
Okay. It's obviously on the permit that this was supposed to be done. I was hoping that the owner would have been here. I would have liked to ask him a couple of questions, but I don't see anybody else here. But the thing is, there's a new fence been put up in my neighborhood, and they followed the ordinance to do it. They have the setbacks for their gate like they're supposed to. And it's obvious, it's right there on the permit. I wanted to ask him if he built this fence himself, if he had a contractor do it or what. Because the contractor should, if he had a contract, the contractor's obviously built fences before with gates, and he should know this. And to me, it's our ordinance. It was obviously in the permit, and he needs to follow it.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First question I had when I saw this was why it wasn't going to Board of Adjustment, but is there a reason?
It's within Chapter 18, so it's within the building code section of the code, so that would fall under council.
Just a variance.
Okay.
If it was Chapter 98 zoning, it would go before the Board of Adjustment.
Okay, but they see things regularly with regard to things like setbacks, like carports and things like that.
Zoning
So those are
setbacks.
zoning
Yeah.
setbacks.
Yes.
Okay, not this one, all right. Yeah, I'm torn by it because I understand it makes it look really, really nice when it's all one uniform area, but I'm familiar with that street. In fact, if you want to pull up the picture, there's absolutely no way that they're going to be able to pull into that driveway and not be sticking out into the street. The street isn't extremely long. It's down in Evans Valley. This particular one runs parallel to Houseman Road, and it has the two little side ones that go across.
Yes,
But
circle
it's a
in.
it's a long road, so I imagine there would be times when any number of vehicles could possibly be going there. I'm torn because I see that it's obviously an inconvenience, but then at the same token, it's spelled out very clearly in everything that they got right up front. I don't think that he would have done that himself. That looks
Well, that's why I wanted.
fairly professionally done. I mean, that's a very nice fence and gate, and all that. So I'm torn with it.
And just for a reference, we had a similar situation like this on Antonio last year, a year before, and they had installed it like this, knowing full well it was supposed to be set back, and it was handled internally by staff, and the people agreed to go ahead and move it back once they understood that's what it was supposed to be in the first place. This individual evidently doesn't want to move it, that's why it's coming to you guys.
I
Anything
guess
else?
I'm leaning towards thinking that we need to be consistent in applying our codes.
Anything else? Paul?
I mean, I understand it's probably not a busy street, and it's probably not gonna inconvenience hardly anybody, and it is a nice uniform fence, but when you look at that permit, I mean, it glares out at you that it's 20 feet.
Yeah, the
So
fence
I'm-
contractor should have seen that too.
I'm kind of like Councilman Blue, I'd like to be sympathetic, but it's clearly spelled out, first line in his permit, that he needs to have that gate set back 20 feet. But it is a slow street, probably not a busy street. So I'm leaning towards not granting the variance.
Well, Circle S is really the only street in Evans Valley, and everybody travels that during the day, but I would imagine most of that is the residents that are in there. Cynthia, anything else following up?
Yeah, so the fence permit, that was on, that was, it says that gates must be set a minimum of 20 feet, and it's on the fence permit.
Yes.
But the fence permit itself, when he asked for it, did not mention a gate. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if the gate isn't mentioned, why was it put on the fence permit?
It's just a standard.
It's just normally mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, and did he, when he was handed to him, did he not look at it or read it? Or, I mean, does anyone know? I mean, and is a fence permit given to the contractor?
It's either given to the contractor or the property owner, whoever picks up and pays for the permit.
And Ernest or Belinda generally go over those stipulations with whoever's picking up the permit.
Okay, so they knew about this?
Not only for this, fence and stuff, but anything that has any language on there, they review it with the applicant.
Okay. But it doesn't mention the setback for the fence itself.
Well, typically, a fence is put on a property line.
It can be put on a property line?
Yes.
That does not have a setback issue? Just the gate? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, I have sympathy for the gentleman, and it's funny that I did remember why this ordinance, it's to stop, somebody sticking way out and until their gate opens and that kind of thing. I don't know how long, it doesn't usually take that long for a gate to open. But it says it's in black and white, and if these other two homeowners, one of them was in compliance, the other one wasn't, and changed it to fix it because to be in compliance, I just don't see how we can grant a variance to somebody just because they don't want to do it. Especially in light of the fact that it's right here in black and white that they needed to put this gate 20 feet from the property line. And I really don't like being like that, but it is what it is, so,
Anything else?
no, that's it.
Bert, any follow-up?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to repeat what I said earlier. I was hoping that the homeowner would have been here so I could ask him if, hopefully he could talk to the contractor and ask the contractor, hey, look, it was obviously on the permit. You should have done it. Like Councilmember Blue was saying, it looks like it's a professionally built fence. This contractor should know this.
Correct.
In my mind. To me, the homeowner needs to get together with his contractor and say, hey, look, you didn't do it the way it's supposed to be done, according to city ordinances. So, but I guess, what if this homeowner decides not to do anything? We're gonna go take the fence, to take the gate down?
That's when
He
code
gets
compliance would get
fined?
involved. Yeah.
Okay. Like, I have sympathy for him too, but I mean, it's just that we have an ordinance and we need to follow our ordinance, in my opinion.
Alex?
On this.
Nothing further, thank you.
Okay. Paul?
I mean, the only thing I noticed is on the permit, it says contractor and it has the resident listed as the contractor. So maybe he did that himself, so.
Maybe so.
Well, a lot of times the owner will take out the permit, but still hire someone to do the job. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, then we'll call the question. A yes vote in this case would be to grant the variance and allow the owner to keep the gate where it is. A nay vote will deny the variance and require them to move it, and then code compliance can follow up on that. So again, a yes vote would approve, a nay vote will deny. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
The request is denied unanimously, the request for a variance. On to item number 10, discussion of and action on an ordinance amending Section C, building fees, in order to comply with House Bill, the new House Bill 852, and also adopting penalty rates. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 10.
We have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. So Paul, you're first up on this, and if you recall, we discussed this last time, and we just came up with the new way of valuing a particular residential project for building permit costs, and that's laid out here in your agenda request and on the ordinance, and then the worksheet Rick did is also attached. So Paul, you're first up.
I mean, I don't really have any comments. I think this is what we have to do.
Yeah.
We don't have a choice, so. And I'm fine with what you guys did. so.
And again, if you recall, when we found out from the city attorney, this had been initiated in Austin and signed by, approved by the Senate and the House, and the governor signed it, and it was effective immediately. So it caught a lot of cities by surprise. And it looks like most cities are following the same route we are, and this was the only thing that made sense to us. So you say you're okay?
I'm okay.
Cynthia?
Well, again, we have no choice but to change them, but, and I was looking on this one, the long one that was in here, and the only thing that I was a little confused about, it has the current permit fee, and then it has per square foot permit fee, but it doesn't give what it would be if it, from the current to what it is now, to the new one with the square footage, what is the difference in, I guess, price?
They're almost the same.
Yeah, some will be a little higher, some will be a little lower. We concentrated and narrowed it down, figuring most residential projects that come to us are between 2,000 and 5,000 square feet. So that's where we really centered and wanted to be sure that they were pretty equal, the old versus the new method of calculating. The rest of them are close, but not necessarily exact. So there may be $200-300 difference above or below what we have now. But again, the majority of the projects should be covered in the fee structure that we're proposing to you.
It's interesting that, surely they knew that we were gonna end up having to do it this way. I mean, it didn't change very much. It's just so ridiculous that they would do this. I don't know. but it's
Just remember, you're dealing with the legislature in Austin.
I mean, we always find a way.
Yeah, sometimes there is no real thought process that makes sense.
It just makes no sense to me, but I'm fine with the way that Rick fixed this, and it is what it is again.
Okay, Alex?
Yes, thank you. I'm in complete agreement that we need to do this, there's no question. I did have one question about, on Exhibit A, near the top, under building fees, where it talks about the square footage includes total living, garage, and porch areas. And obviously, the value of a total living space is clearly more per square foot than would be a porch, for example. I can see that in some areas of the city, we might have a house that's not terribly large, but might have a very large porch. Is there any, and I certainly don't want to make the enforcement or application of this any more complicated, but to me, it seems a little difficult to include porches and such the same in the square footage with living space when doing that, because it certainly wouldn't have that same effect to the valuation of the overall property, so that would make it a little bit less equitable. Can you share some thought
Yeah,
on
we talked about
the
that,
inclusion
Rick.
of that?
Rick, would you explain?
I mean, I think the decision on that was just, was arbitrary.
Yeah.
You can either include the total living area and just calculate it that way, or you can include everything that's essentially sits on top of the foundation, which is gonna be your porches and your garage areas. And so we opted arbitrarily to just say it's everything that it's all, the entire square footage of the foundation.
We, and what we wanted to clarify what was included, so if anyone asked, we could. And on our current fee schedule, the garage is included in the fee schedule at a dollar amount that is less than the living area square foot that we figure as a value. But the reason we did it this way is because in some situations, we're winding up with a lesser fee and a few more, but it seemed like most of them were below rather than at or above. And so we just figured that this would compensate for that little discrepancy.
I'm fine with it. I would imagine the bigger the house, the more the porches as well, and porches and bigger garage, and so it's probably
Not necessarily,
comparable.
not necessarily.
And I will say that this is also based on an arbitrary price per square foot of $98. So we know that many custom homes are significantly higher than $98 a square foot. So it tends, I mean, I don't have the exact numbers, but I would think it tends to sort of average out from what the city is collecting now versus what we will collect under this.
Okay. I'm not opposed to it. I just was wanting to know if that was considered in the thought process.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Most houses today are running, I would say, at a value $150 to $200 a square foot. And we're figuring $98.51, which is what we've used for years. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Bert?
Oh, I'm in complete agreement that we need to do this, but obviously, we have spent a bunch of hours, getting to this point to make this new fee schedule up for building permit fees. And then also Rick sent out, I believe, an email today, or was it yesterday, about tasking the staff with having to deal with all the other legislative laws that are coming down. I wish there was a way we could send a bill to our legislators and have them pay for what they're making us do. I wish I'm sorry, to me, I don't understand what they're doing. It doesn't make any sense, and it's costing us money. We should send them the bill.
What's interesting is a lot of times we're not sure they know what they're doing either.
Well, I'm sorry, it's costing us money to deal with what they're sending us, and they're thinking they're helping us, so I better stop right now. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Paul, second time, anything?
No, sir.
Cynthia, anything else? Alex, you're done?
I'm done.
Bert, you're good?
I'm done.
Okay, then a yes vote will be to approve the new fee schedule for building permit fees. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The new building permit fee schedule and method of calculation is approved. Okay, this is just a discussion and direction item, number 11, on the design of the gateway monument signage for the city of Helotes. So we'll just start out here, and Cynthia, you want to go first on discussion of the sign that the EDC is proposing that you consider? And there are
Sure.
three particular drawings here.
Yes, and this, only one company sent their designs, so are we going to be still accepting other signs from other companies, or is this it?
Rick would address that.
This is a starting point. This is the only company that responded, and this is also the only company that would provide us designs for free. It's also the company that built the LED sign out front, so there is a history there. Keller Custom Signs is a very reputable sign contractor. They're huge, actually. But this is, again, just a starting point. And all I'm looking for tonight is comments about whether you like the sign, don't like the sign, what you do and do not like about it, so that I can wrap all of this stuff together and send it to the design contractor, or to the sign contractor, and they can come up with some variations to send back to the EDC to city council and then to P and Z as well. We've already gone through this process with the EDC. Y'all are tonight, and P and Z will be next Tuesday.
Okay. Well, I'm looking at what the EDC saw this and made these little suggestions.
Those are the exact comments made by the EDC, yes.
Yeah, I don't understand some of them, but they wanted to look more primitive or rustic. Okay, they said the windmill's too prominent, and they want Helotes more, I mean, whatever. They want the windmill smaller, and I guess Helotes bigger.
I put their comments in here just as an FYI. Honestly, I wouldn't, at this point, focus on their comments. I'm seeking comments from the council, and then I'm gonna incorporate all those together and send them to the contractor. So, I mean, if council likes these signs, that's fine. I just need to know y'all's
Okay,
comments.
okay, this one, I think that the blue does kind of map going. I like the one with the highlight, the second sign, I guess you could say. That's the one that kind of hit me better.
The B, it says B down at the bottom right. You have an A, a B, and a
Yes,
C.
it's
So it's a
B, I guess.
B down here in this bottom right.
A B, and I guess the reason is because the Helotes is, it's got the white lines around the words, and to me, it stands out more
Yeah.
than the others. Then the others looks like I'm not sure how those are hooked on there.
They're aluminum.
Yeah, it sits in front.
Oh,
There's a
I
little
see,
aluminum thing
I
in front of
see.
the sign.
And
So-
this
so-
one is,
so
this one
A-
is.
Doesn't need,
A and
it's
B
incorporated
are,
into the sign.
yeah, A and B are away from the face of the sign, and B is simply attached to the face of the sign.
I see, okay. Well, the one thing about the things that are not attached to the sign is, those are gonna get dirty really quick, and, they're gonna start looking, kinda ragged, I think. Is that in metal? Is that what it's gonna be?
It's aluminum.
Aluminum. So I guess, I don't know. I like the second one. I like B. I don't have, it is, I kind of was not expecting our logo to be the sign. That did throw me, and I was thinking more of a sign that says, "Welcome to Helotes," not City of Helotes. Usually that's what you have when you're entering a new city, it's welcome to the, so that kind of threw me off, so I'd just like to know what y'all feel about that. That's what I thought the sign was, to welcome people who were coming through our city. And so I'm not exactly sure how I feel at this point.
That it?
Yeah.
Alex?
Well, I agree with a lot of that. When I first saw that, I thought, it's a great emblem for a shirt, but I'm not so sure that if a business came to us with this, we would love all that red and a big, huge monster sign. We've been talking a lot of the businesses out of these bright and flashy colors, and to me, it was like, well, that might be an emblem that we put on a hat or a shirt, but that didn't sound to me like it was the city emblem to be put on a monument. That was my first reaction. So that might shoot all three of them. Now, with regard to the design of it, if I were to pick of the three, I would prefer the one where the lettering is actually on top of, not set out in front, but actually a part of the face of the sign and flush that way. But, and I'm guessing the difference between a couple of these is, because I was trying to see how some of these were red background with white superimposed on it, or white background with red over it. Is that kind of the way they're looking at this in a couple of these?
Can you go up? So sign A is this one. Basically, the city of and the red background and the windmill are constructed out of aluminum. They have vinyl over the top of that aluminum to give it that color. And then it's set away from the face of the sign. The Helotes is completely separated from the face of the sign and is actually mounted onto the base. So that is the significant difference for A. B is, there is no relief or
Okay.
set back from the face of the sign. It simply is plexiglass that then has vinyl decals on it and placed onto the front of the face of the sign. Sign C is also separated from the face of the sign, but you'll notice that Helotes is on top of the monument base rather than on the front of the monument base, so it sits up a little bit higher. It doesn't hang down as much over the base, the monument base.
Okay.
So A and C are very similar. B is different, and B is also cheaper because it doesn't use the aluminum away from the face of the sign.
So I didn't see this in the packet, maybe I missed it, but where would this be placed?
Councilman, I don't think we're there yet. What?
That to me is important as the design, right? I mean,
Well,
if
it's
it's
gonna
a
be
welcome to, then you would want to see it at the edge of the city, you're not in the middle. Or is it going
Yeah.
to replace the existing ones on a pole with a circle? or-
No.
No, I
they'll
mean,
stay.
yeah, I think I can answer that generally speaking. Yeah, they're meant to be at the north and south city limits of Helotes, and they will be in TxDOT right-of-way to the right-hand side as you're traveling north and to the right-hand side as you're traveling south at those general locations. There was some discussion, I think Councilman Byes brought it up during the EDC meeting about possibly asking to have it in the median of the highway on both sides rather than on the right-hand side. But generally speaking, it's going to be at the city limits on both the north and south of Bandera Road. That's what I meant by, I don't think we're at the point where we say we want it exactly at this location. But it will be to the right-hand side at the city limits.
Okay, okay.
And at one time, the EDC was talking about having them on 1560 and Scenic Loop, but it looks like we're probably just center on Bandera Road. That's subject to change, of course.
Okay, thank you. I don't know, I would still like to see something other than this emblem be part of the sign, but I'm not sure I have an answer as to what that should be, but this doesn't seem to me like the right design. It'd be nice if we had other options to look at too.
Okay, okay. Paul?
Number one, I do think these are quite large and it's kind of a big sign. I was expecting something a little bit smaller than 8 feet. I'm okay with the designs, but I thought they were kind of big. Is the price the $9,000 for each one? So that's going to be one for north and south. So you're going to have to spend
It's for,
$20,000 for both sides.
Yes, sir.
That's a lot of money.
Well, actually, in monument signs, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not. $7,000 to $9,000 per sign for a 50 square foot sign with a monument base is not, it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. But I understand your concern. Yes, it is a lot of money. Yes.
I guess if I had to pick one, I'm not opposed to I think the ones that stand out in front give it a little bit of depth, at least from what I can see, which might bring a little attention to it. But I think with Councilman Massey, I think with the outline, it does kind of make the Helotes pop a little bit on B.
and just to clarify, the B sign is only 7,234. So you're talking about 14.5 for the both of them.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Bert?
Okay, I don't like any of them. And I'm completely agree with Councilmember Blue. Until we find out where they're gonna be, I can't give you any direction on which one or what type of sign that we could possibly put up. And I still think, whereas I hate to say this about our sister city, Leon Valley, down the road, Their signs identifying their city are very large, but I do like where they're located in the median. I would still like to see that happen, put it in the median. And then if we're going to put them at the city limits, north and south of the city, our city limits on the north side of the city is halfway to Pipe Creek. So anyway, I don't know if that's the correct place to put that entrance sign. I mean, that's a long ways out there. It's, what is it, past the little golf course over there? Or
Yeah,
just
past.
Just past the golf course. So I cannot give you any direction other than I don't like any of the signs, that type of design. And it's still in my mind, I would like to see them in the median and have the north one have it closer to our city proper, other than way out there in the boonies. I know it's still our city limits, but it's just we've just annexed just the highway itself. So that's the only direction I can give you.
That it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I had mentioned the same thing to the EDC, that it would be more appropriate, I thought, and make more sense to people coming in to have it, if you're gonna do a monument sign, have it be around the Los Reyes area so that you're closer to the city. Just as a thought, if you decide, first of all, if you decide you want the monument signs, because the signs that are out there now accomplish the purpose of letting people know when they're entering the city of Helotes, but you could make this logo smaller, shrink it down, and then, like you're saying, have a welcome at the top in some form or fashion to go along with the rest of it, and either eliminate city of and just say welcome to Helotes, but in a smaller, compact way of doing it rather than a 8-foot tall sign out there, just as a thought. And then you could also shrink it even more at the bottom, put Helotes Gateway to the Hill Country, if you want to get that busy. But again, it comes down to number one, do you really need a monument sign, or would the EDC be better off spending $15,000 basically on something else?
I
Those are just
like
my
the
thoughts.
idea of having a monument sign, especially entering from San Antonio into Helotes.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Yeah, but I'm also, don't like the red. Here we tell everybody to do rust color and earth tone, and then to have this red right when we're coming in, when we've told everybody else, no, you need to do, earth tone colors.
How about the windmill? Because the windmill is on a lot of stuff that we do.
I understand that, and for a logo, it's fine, and I think that the windmill is fine too, but I'm thinking the background color should possibly be a rust color or an earth tone color. I think that would help. And I do agree that it doesn't need to be this big.
Yeah.
It just doesn't need to be this big.
How about maybe dropping it a little bit from 8 feet to 6 or 7, and then eliminating city of and say welcome with maybe 2, and come up with a better background color? Welcome to Helotes?
Yeah.
You want to worry about getting Gateway to the Hill Country, or that would be too busy? What do you think?
Well, we can ask for a design and see what they think,
Yeah.
just see what it looks like with it and without it.
Okay.
I think you're right. I think 6 feet is sufficient. I don't think it needs to be much higher than 6 feet.
Okay, so that's kind of
Yeah.
where you are now.
Yeah.
So lowering the total height to 6 feet, dropping city of and put welcome to, adjust the background color, you still have contrast,
Again, I'm putting all of these comments and sending them to you.
pass it along, okay. Alex, any follow-up to that?
Well, I think we've all kind of thought that to me, the color code is wrong. I agree with the smaller size. If you put it in the median, you certainly don't want it to be too big there, because then it becomes
Visual obstruction.
yeah, an obstruction to, and depending on where you put it on the side, 6 may or may not work right too, so it's hard to say. But I would think that, you had mentioned out near Los Reyes Canyon, I would think maybe a little bit further out, just past San Antonio Ranch, maybe in that flat, straight area there where it wouldn't be a problem with somebody doing a U-turn to get back to San Antonio Ranch, site issues there. That might be a good spot there. You can't put it in the median if you're gonna do anything on 1560 but I think we've got an awful lot of, I've seen a lot of entry signs into other small communities, and not, I mean, Leon Valley's is large, but it's also very brown and tan colors. If you go up 281 to Blanco, there's this white, which of course makes sense for them. You know, my mother-in-law lives in Brazoria, and they have one at the entrance to everyone, welcome to Brazoria, Cradle of Texas, and they have that kind of a small monument on the side, but none of them are massive. They're a lot smaller, but they also aren't vinyl and metal. They're stucco with painting on it, and I think that might be a little bit more to our earth tone. Or if we had maybe the monument that's all of the stone, and then welcome to in just relief letters. That could work too. I don't know. I'd like to see the way that works out.
And Hondo and Bandera both have them too, yeah. That it?
Yes, thank you.
Paul, any direction?
No.
Nothing? Okay. Bert? Okay, you got enough direction? Okay. Well, we appreciate your input, or Rick does, and the EDC does. I do too, but not as much as they do, I imagine. So you have your ammo and get back with your sign guy. And I doubt you'd be able to have those changes by the time it goes to the P and Z, so just, I'd take the same one to P and Z just to get their input as well. Okay, well that, by golly, that takes care of our agenda. So if there is no objection, we will adjourn. No objections? We are adjourned at 7:46.